Coming at you live from Auto Trader, here's New Car Energy.
They're searching inventory. You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. It's smarter car shopping just for
Find
you.
your next ride at autotrader.com, powered by Auto Intelligence.
The following was taken from a New York Magazine profile, 2022. He was born on Halloween, 1935, in Montreal, Canada. Dr. Ian Samuels. He went to study at McGill University, where he earned his medical degree in 1963. Samuels was a deeply curious individual with a particular interest in understanding the mind and the phenomena surrounding consciousness. His early career in psychiatry, however, wasn't initially focused on his later groundbreaking research into reincarnation or paranormal phenomena. By the mid-1960s, he had become disillusioned by conventional medicine. In an interview with the Oregonian in 1999, he said that he had been drawn to studying past lives through his discontent with other explanations of human personality. I wasn't satisfied with psychoanalysis or behaviorism, or, for that matter, neuroscience. Something seemed to be missing. Dr. Samuels began recording potential cases of reincarnation, which he would come to call cases of the reincarnation type, or CORT. It was one of his initial CORT research papers regarding a child named Martin Taylor that caught the attention of Cameron Stone, a very wealthy entrepreneur. It was Mr. Stone's generous financial assistance that enabled Dr. Samuels to leave his role at the medical school and focus full-time on past lives research. The dean of the University of North Carolina of Asheville Medical School at the time, Kent Smith, didn't approve of this foray into the paranormal. He was happy to see Dr. Samuels resign from his spot in the Department of Psychiatry and, believing in academic freedom, agreed to the formation of a small research division. However, any hope Dr. Smith had that Dr. Samuels and his unorthodox ideas would disappear into the academic shadows was quickly dashed after Samuels' chance encounter with Cameron Stone at a Neil Young concert in 1974. That was not an accident. I don't believe in accidents. I believe in the pursuit of life. Cameron Stone speaks to us from a spaceship, literally. He is aboard the Baby Blue, a suborbital spacecraft developed by his space company, Spacestone. The Baby Blue spacecraft is designed to take passengers on brief suborbital flights, reaching the edge of space before returning to Earth. He explains with great enthusiasm his chance encounter with Dr. Samuels. My girlfriend at the time had a modeling gig in Asheville. She saw a tiny article in some newspaper about some tiny school focused on life after death. I was hooked. I called Ian up the next day and asked him if he liked Neil Young. 2 shows and a couple dozen beers later, and I was giving him a check for $500,000. The check for $500,000 was awarded most notably after Dr. Samuels showed Mr. Stone a case file entitled Martin Taylor. While details of the case remain somewhat infamous due to an ongoing legal matter, it is known as the case that proves the devil might be real, according to some of the more feverish fanbase living on the conspiracy board Reddit. The newfound grant money enabled Samuels to open up a full-time division of research focused primarily on reincarnation. That was nearly 50 years ago. This marked the beginning of his focused investigation into phenomena that were not commonly accepted by mainstream science, particularly those that were perceived as supernatural or paranormal. DOPS was created with the goal of researching phenomena such as near-death experiences, telepathy, reincarnation, and other forms of non-physical phenomena. Dr. Samuels' research into reincarnation was most widely recognized and controversial aspect of his career. He conducted in-depth investigations into children's claims of past life memories, visiting the locations where these children claimed to have lived their previous lives. These investigations involved interviewing the children and their families, cross-checking their statements, and often finding evidence that seemed to support the claims, such as the child's knowledge of events, people, or places they couldn't have known through ordinary means. He meticulously documented over 2,500 cases of children who claimed to remember past lives across various countries, including India, Thailand, Lebanon, and the United States. Some of these cases involved very specific and verifiable details, such as the names of people or events that were later confirmed by independent investigation. These findings were documented in his influential book, such as 50 Cases Suggested of Reincarnation, 1983, and Children Who Remember Past Lives, 1992. While many other researchers in parapsychology approach the study of paranormal phenomena with more speculative or less rigorous methods, Dr. Samuels applied scientific and empirical research techniques. His work was not about proving the existence of reincarnation, but rather documenting and analyzing cases that suggested the phenomena. Each of the DOPS researchers had committed their career and, to some extent, risked their professional reputation to the study of the so-called paranormal. This includes near-death and out-of-body experiences, altered states of consciousness, and past life research, which all come under the classification parapsychology. They are scientists whom have strayed from the usual path, trying to navigate what most of their contemporaries might easily dismiss as a waste of time, money, and resources. DOPS is a curious institution. They will be the first to admit it. There are only a few other labs in the world undertaking similar lines of research. The Kitzelman Parapsychology Unit at the University of Edinburgh, for instance. With DOPS being by far the most prominent, the only other major parapsychology units in the United States was Princeton's Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, or PARE, which focused on telekinesis and extrasensory perception. That unit was shut down in 2008. After spending more than half his life studying past lives, Dr. Samuels retired from DOPS in 2020, handing the directorial baton to Dr. Josh Tucker. Though he kept a watchful eye on proceedings from afar, offering guidance when solicited, he never set foot in the division again. He died 6 months after his retirement at the age of 85. While not all of the attention was positive in the division's early years, some individuals in the science community were intrigued. Either Dr. Samuels is making a colossal mistake, or he will be known as the Galileo of the 20th century. The psychiatrist Harold Miner wrote in a 1981 article for the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease. To this day, DOPS is still financed entirely by private donations, including an anonymous Silicon Valley executive who stipulated that in their contract he would remain anonymous. Their most public champion, Cameron Stone, remains their biggest financial supporter. In the early years of the department, Dr. Samuels traveled the world extensively, recording more than 2,000 cases of children recalling past lives. In this pre-internet time, discovering so many similar accounts and trends served to strengthen his thesis. The findings from these excursions, collected in Dr. Samuels' neat handwriting, are stored by country in filing cabinets and are in the slow process of being digitized. The strongest cases, according to the DOPS researchers, have been found in children under the age of 10. And the majority of remembrances tend to occur between ages 2 and 6. After that, they appear to fade. The median time between death and rebirth is about 16 months, a period the researchers see as a form of intermission. Very often, the child has memories that match up to the life of a deceased relative. And yet, for all of this meticulous work, Dr. Samuels was aware of the limitations of past lives research. The evidence is not flawless, and it certainly does not compel such a belief, he explained at a lecture in Tulane University in 1989. Even the best of it is open to alternative interpretations, and one can only censure those who say there is no evidence whatsoever. Ian thought reincarnation was the best explanation, but he wasn't positive, said Dr. Grayson Willett, the first research associate to join DOPS in 1977. He thought a lot of the cases may be something else. It might be a kind of possession. It might be even delusion. There are lots of different possibilities. It may be clairvoyance or picking up information from some other sources that you're not aware of. Each year, DOPS receives more than 100 emails from parents regarding something their child has said. Researching out to the division is often an attempt at clarity, but the researchers never promise answers. Their only promise is to take these claims seriously. But as far as the case having enough to investigate, enough to potentially verify that it matches with a past life, those are very few, said Dr. Tucker. This summer, Dr. Tucker drove to the tiny town of Beaufort, North Carolina, to visit a case of possible past life remembrance. Joined by his colleagues Courtney Spaney and Brendan Whitmore, latter of which is the unofficial heir to become director of DOPS after Dr. Tucker retires next year, Whitmore, 45, is the first research assistant to work under Tucker, specializes in biomedical instrumentation and functional MRI brain imaging. He has been working at DOPS for 13 years. Ms. Spaney, 26, who specializes in near-death experience and children who remember past lives, has been at DOPS for 2 years and is launching a study into women who have had near-death experiences during childbirth. When she tells people what she does, they find the subject matter both fascinating and disturbing. We've had emails from people saying we're doing the work of the devil, she said. Upon arrival at the family's home, the team was shown into the kitchen. A child, who was 3, the youngest of 4 homeschool siblings, peeked from behind her mother's leg, looking up shyly. She wore a baggy Barbie t-shirt and went to perch between her grandparents on a banquet, watching everyone take their seats around the dining table. Let's start from the very beginning, Dr. Tucker said after the paperwork had been signed by Molly, the child's 29-year-old mother. It all began with the puzzle piece. A few months earlier, mother and child had been looking at a wooden puzzle of the United States, with each state represented by a cartoon of a person or object. Molly's daughter pointed excitedly at the jagged piece representing Illinois, which had an abstract illustration of Abraham Lincoln. "That's Tap," her daughter exclaimed. "He doesn't have his hat on." This was indeed a drawing of Abraham Lincoln without his hat, but more important, there was no name under the image indicating who he was. Following weeks of endless talk about Tap bleeding out after being hurt and carried into a too-small bed, which the family had started to think could be related to Lincoln's assassination, they began to consider that their daughter had been present for the historical moment. This was despite the family having no prior belief in reincarnation nor any particular interest in Lincoln. On the drive to Beaufort, Dr. Tucker confessed his hesitation in taking on this particular case, or any case connected to a famous individual. If you say your child was Babe Ruth, for example, there would be lots of information online, he said. When we get those cases, usually it's the parents that are into it. Still, it's all a little strange to be coming out of a 3-year-old's mouth. Now, if she had said her daughter was Lincoln, I probably wouldn't have made the trip. Lately, Dr. Tucker has been giving the children picture tests. Where we think we know the person they're talking about, we'll show them a picture from that life and then show them another picture, a dummy picture, from somewhere else, to see if they pick out the right one, he said. You have to have a few pictures for it to mean anything. I had one where the kid remembered dying in Vietnam. I showed him 10 pairs of pictures, and a couple of them he didn't make any choice on. But the others he was 6 out of 6. That makes you think. But this girl is so young that I don't think we can do that. The little girl decided not to engage and pretended to be asleep. Then she actually fell asleep. She'll come around to it soon, Molly assured the researchers. As the minutes ticked by, Dr. Tucker decided the picture test would be best left for another time. After the first meeting, the only course of action is to do nothing and wait. See if the memories develop into something more concrete. Since the onus for past life research is the spontaneous recollections, the team are largely unconvinced by the concept of hypnotic regression. People will be hypnotized and told to go back to their past lives and all that, which we're quite skeptical about, said Dr. Tucker. You can also make up a lot of stuff, even if you're talking about memories from this life. DOPS rarely takes accounts from adults into consideration. They're not our primary interest, partly because as an adult, you've been exposed to a lot, Dr. Tucker explained. You may think that you don't know things from history, but you may well have been exposed to it. But also, the phenomenon typically happens in young kids. It's as if they carry the memories with them, and they are typically very young when they start talking. There is also a concern that parents are looking for attention. There are people who say, well, the parents are just doing it to have their 15 minutes of fame, said Dr. Tucker. But most of them have no interest in anyone knowing about it, because it's kind of embarrassing, or they worry people will think that their kid is weird. For a child, recalling the past life can be trying. They might be missing people, or have a sense of unfinished business, he said. After a silence, he continued, his voice contemplative. Frankly, it's probably better for the child that they don't have these memories, because so many of these memories are difficult. The majority of kids who remember how they died perished in some kind of violent, unnatural death. The researchers hope that the idea of the mind surviving bodily death will be better understood in years to come, and taken more seriously. I doubt there's going to be one finding or one study that suddenly convinces everyone that we need to change how we understand reality. But I think it can encourage people to explore that, Dr. Tucker said, referring to the work that has been done in the field of past lives research in the last century. When asked about Martin Taylor, their most infamous case, he says, "No comment." The team at DOPS believes a greater acceptance of life being a continuous cycle could have a positive effect on the way we live. It could certainly impact how people view their lives, said Dr. Tucker. I think it's a more hopeful view than the idea that this is just a random universe that is meaningless. Of course, people find this in their religion, but if people could see that there is this aspect of themselves that continues, it could help with grief and death anxiety and hopefully help people treat each other a little better. There would be a stronger sense that we're all in this together. It's not just a pointless existence. Dr. Tucker's thoughts dwell less on the past and more on the imminent future. He has spent the past few months tying up loose ends ahead of his nearby departure. One thing is certain. Whoever takes up the mantle as director of DOPS will become the new custodian of Dr. Samuels' lifelong obsession. To keep his presence alive and well, Dr. Samuels left behind a gift for his staff, a locked chest, the combination of which only he knows. How will it be opened, you wonder? There is only one way, and it would require Dr. Samuels to pass the combination on from beyond the grave. Dr. Tucker appears reluctant to discuss this. I would be lying if part of me didn't wish his locked box experiment did not become known. Our biggest fan and supporter, Cameron Stone, let the cat out of the bag. It's sort of a lose-lose. If by some encounter we do get this combination, nobody will believe us when it's opened. The pause and careful choice of words is not an accident. Dr. Tucker is highly aware of not creating an image for DOPS that lacks in science and fact. After all, there are more than 1 million possible combinations to his infamous lock, and no coincidence in guessing the right one. Many have tried, some even attempting to retrieve the code from Dr. Samuels himself by enlisting the help of spiritual mediums to no avail. As for Dr. Tucker, he plans to move to South Carolina with his wife to be closer to their grandchildren. I'm thinking that I will start a new chapter in my book, he said. A new life, perhaps? He smiled. Yeah, something like that.
On the eve of Halloween, San Francisco becomes the stage for Hitchcock's haunting masterpiece, Vertigo, with live orchestra, October 30th. Experience the film's mystery and suspense on the big screen as the San Francisco Symphony performs the music live. Don't miss Vertigo with live orchestra, October 30th at the San Francisco Symphony. Tickets at sfsymphony.org. Rated PG.